Hey y'all, welcome. I just recently found out that Elizabeth Holmes is going to be serving out her prison sentence in my home state. For those of you who are in a cave somewhere and don't really know what's going on with Elizabeth Holmes or who she is, she worked for a company that like a laboratory type company, and they did blood work, and they claimed to have this new innovative way to test blood with a tiny little bit of sample, and it turned out to be a big fraud after they had collected millions on top of millions on top of millions of dollars worth of investments. So she got charged with that for defrauding investors, and the federal prison system sentenced her to 135 months in a federal prison. The feds, when they give time, they give it out in months, not like the state of Texas, who gives it out in years, right? What 135 months equates to is 11 years and 3 months. Y'all, I have a financial crime too, and I am feeling pretty salty about this sentence because my charge was theft over $200,000. The amount was 367,000. That was the amount on my court papers. And that's a story for another time, but it was actually really only half that amount that I got, that I had my hands on, but we'll get into that later. Anyways, I was sentenced to 20 years in a state facility, not a federal prison camp like this young lady is going to be going to. What does it look like where she's going to? She's going to Bryan Federal Prison Camp in Bryan, Texas. And you guys can see it doesn't look very prison-ish. I had to get on and do some research to kind of see what the prison was about. You guys can see right here where I was in prison at. It definitely looks like a prison. You cannot mistake it. The razor wire on top of the fences. And I think where Elizabeth's going to be at, I'm not even so sure that it's completely gated in, honestly. It's kind of a cupcake camp. Who knows, y'all? Maybe Elizabeth will end up besties with Jen Shaw from The Real Housewives, who also is serving time in Bryan, Texas at the federal prison camp for a fraud case. We'll just have to see about that. It looks a little bit cushy inside from the pictures that I could see. You guys can see that their dormitories are set up in bunk bed style housing, but it's from 4 to 6 beds in one cubicle area. So if y'all have seen Orange is the New Black, that's how they show their housing there. That's also at a federal prison camp. And that's a far cry from the way that I was housed in a Texas prison. I was either in a dorm with 102 to 125 women housed in little cubicles with one single bed in the cubicle, but the walls were only like less than halfway. So everyone could see everyone at all times. There was zero privacy. And if I put my arms out, y'all, I could touch both of my bunkies. There was no room. We were packed in there like sardines, most seriously. And then they went on to talk about how the inmates at Bryan Federal Prison Camp have to work, and they get paid wages up to $1.15 an hour, which seems like nothing, right? But it happens to be $1.15 more an hour than Texas prisoners made. I worked for free for over a decade doing hard manual back-breaking labor out on the field squad, and Elizabeth is not going to be doing that kind of work. There's actually a Unicor job facility where inmates work in a call center, much different from what I'm doing. I can't imagine that she'll be sitting in a room taking phone calls, quite possibly, for her work, for her paid work, when we were out there really breaking our backs, quite honestly. Yeah, I'm feeling salty for sure. So Elizabeth Holmes has 2 small children. So I'm not saying that her prison sentence is going to be all cake, because quite frankly, the worst part of prison for me as a mother was being away from my kids, being away from my family, living with the guilt of what I'm was currently putting them through. And so she's going to be dealing with that, and it's not going to be easy. My heart goes out to her and her family. She did this horrible thing and she's going for her punishment, but her children, they're victims in this too. They're suffering in this too. I just wonder what it would look like, because Elizabeth Holmes was sentenced to restitution also. She has to pay a lot of this money back, guys, a lot of it. How is she going to pay that back from within prison, making $1.15 an hour? She's not. So for 11 months and 3 years, which actually she'll probably end up doing about 85% of that time. That's about what they do in the feds. But during that entire time, she's not going to be paying that restitution. What would have happened if she was on house arrest, like possibly with a GPS monitor, and she was forced to only work and home, work, home, work, home? Then she would be available still to mother her kids, and they wouldn't have that trauma of having their mother incarcerated. And she would begin to make amends in her community by making these restitution payments. Just a thought.